Commander Junho Kim stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable and watched the stars through the main screen. His ship moved slowly through space near the edge of human territory. The night shift was quiet and most of the crew slept in their bunks below. Only the soft hum of the engines and the gentle beep of monitoring systems broke the silence. Lieutenant Soo-Jin Park sat at the communications station and checked the long-range sensors for the 100th time that shift. She had been doing this job for 3 years and knew that most nights were like this. Nothing happened in the deep space between star systems. Pirates rarely came this far out and alien ships almost never visited human space. The quantum communication array suddenly came alive with noise. Soo-Jin jumped in her chair as alarms started beeping. She had never heard sounds like this before. The computer tried to make sense of the signal, but failed. Strange voices spoke in a language that the universal translator could barely understand. "Commander Kim to the communication station, please," Soo-Jin called over the ship intercom. Junho walked quickly across the bridge and looked at the screens. Numbers and graphs showed a signal coming from very far away. The transmission was weak and broken. Static filled most of it, but some words came through clearly enough for the computer to translate. "Can you clean this up?" Junho asked. Soo-Jin worked at her console and tried different filters. Slowly, the message became clearer. A voice spoke with fear and desperation. The words made Junho's blood run cold. "This is Elder Physician Veshatai of the Villani Medical Council on SciFiPrime. We are under attack by unknown ships. They came without warning and began destroying our cities. We have no weapons to fight them. Our children are dying. Please, help us. Anyone who can hear this message, please help us. The attackers call themselves Skarn Ravagers. They want to destroy everything. We cannot defend ourselves. Please help." The message repeated 3 more times before it cut to static. Soo-Jin looked at her commander with wide eyes. She had heard of the Villani before. Everyone in human space knew about them. They were peaceful aliens who made the best medical equipment in the galaxy. They had no armies and no weapons. They spent their time healing others and studying medicine. Junho called up the star charts on his command screen. The Kepler 442 system was far away but not impossible to reach. It would take days to get there even with their fastest ships. He wondered if the Villani would still be alive by then. "Soo-Jin, get me Captain Min-Ho Lee on the horizon's edge. He should be in the next system doing surveys." The communications officer worked quickly and soon Captain Lee appeared on the main screen. He was a young man with serious eyes who had been exploring the galaxy for the past 5 years. His ship was smaller than the Indomitable but faster and equipped with better sensors. "Captain Lee, did you receive the Villani distress call?" Junho asked. "Yes, Commander, we picked it up about 10 minutes ago. My sensor officer has been trying to get more information. The attack appears to be real. We can detect weapon signatures and explosion patterns from this distance." Junho felt anger building in his chest. The Villani had never hurt anyone. They gave medical aid to all species without asking for payment. Their hospitals treated humans and aliens equally. Now someone was trying to wipe them out completely. "What do you know about these Skarn Ravagers?" Junho asked. Captain Lee checked his computer files. "Not much, Commander. They appear to be a nomadic species that moves from system to system. Intelligence reports say they attack peaceful worlds and take everything of value. They have been moving through this region of space for the past 6 months. The Galactic Council has been discussing them, but no action has been taken." Junho knew how the Galactic Council worked. They would talk for months while entire civilizations died. The council members were afraid of the Skarn and would not risk their own ships to save others. They would send diplomatic messages and form committees while innocent people suffered. "How many ships do the Skarn have?" he asked. "Our long-range sensors show at least 6 large vessels around SciFiPrime. Each one is bigger than anything in our fleet. They appear to be bombarding the planet from orbit." Soo-Jin interrupted the conversation. "Commander, we are receiving more distress calls. The Villani are broadcasting on all frequencies now. The attacks are getting worse." Junho listened to the new messages. Villani voices begged for help in their musical language. Children cried in the background. Explosions could be heard through the static. The planet's defense shields were failing, and the Skarn ships were moving closer to the surface. Captain Lee, how long would it take us to reach the Kepler system? Junho asked. At maximum speed, about 18 hours, Commander. But we would be going in blind against an unknown enemy. Junho thought about his options. The smart choice was to report the attack to Earth Command and wait for orders. The safe choice was to stay in human space and let others decide what to do. The Villani were not humans and not his responsibility. But Junho remembered visiting a Villani medical station 2 years ago when his ship was damaged in an asteroid field. The alien doctors had worked for days to save his injured crew members. They refused payment and asked only that humans remember their kindness. The head doctor had given him a small crystal that Villani children made for their friends. He still carried that crystal in his pocket. Su-Jin sent a priority message to all human ships in this sector. Tell them about the Villani distress call and ask for volunteers. Also contact Earth Command and tell them we are responding to a humanitarian crisis. Sir, what about our orders? Su-Jin asked. We are supposed to patrol this sector for the next 3 days. The orders have changed, Junho said firmly. Set course for the Kepler system maximum speed. All departments prepare for combat operations. The bridge crew looked at their commander with surprise. Fighting the Skarn Ravagers was not part of their mission. They were explorers and patrol ships, not a battle fleet. The Indomitable had weapons but not enough to fight 6 enemy dreadnoughts. Captain Lee spoke from the communication screen. Commander, are you sure about this? We could be flying into a trap. Captain, the Villani saved 17 of my crew members when we were dying in space. They asked for nothing in return. Now they need our help and I will not abandon them. Understood, Commander. The Horizon's Edge will follow you into battle. Over the next hour, more human ships responded to the call. Mining vessels from the asteroid belt changed course toward Kepler. Transport ships carrying supplies volunteered to join the rescue mission. Even civilian cargo haulers offered to help despite having no weapons. Su-Jin counted the responses. Commander, we have 12 ships confirmed and more asking for our position. The cargo ship Lucky Stars carrying construction equipment that could be used as weapons. The transport New Beijing has a full medical bay and volunteer doctors. Junho smiled for the first time since receiving the distress call. This was what made humans different from other species. When innocent people needed help, humans came running. They did not ask about profit or politics or safety. They simply did what was right. Send our coordinates to all volunteer ships and tell them to meet us at the edge of the Kepler system. We go in together, or not at all. The Indomitable jumped to faster-than-light speed and raced toward the battle. Behind them, a growing fleet of human ships followed. None of them knew what they would find when they arrived. None of them cared about the odds against them. The Villani had called for help, and humanity had answered. Admiral Hee-Jin Choi received the emergency message while eating breakfast in her quarters on Luna Station. The quantum relay had been carrying news from the outer rim all morning, but this transmission was different. It came marked with the highest priority codes and bore the seal of Commander Kim from the patrol fleet. She read the report twice before calling her staff. The Villani were under attack and human ships were already moving to help them. By the time her senior officers arrived, in the command center, more messages were arriving from across human space. The distress call had spread like wildfire through every communication network. What do we know about the situation? Admiral Choi asked her intelligence officer. Captain So-Ra Young checked her data screens. The Skarn Ravagers have 6 major warships attacking SciFiPrime. Our ships in the area report heavy bombardment of civilian targets. The Villani have no military and cannot defend themselves. Admiral Choi studied the tactical display. The Kepler system was far from any major human base. The few ships in that region were explorers and patrol craft not designed for major combat. They would face an enemy fleet that outnumbered them badly. How many ships has Commander Kim gathered? She asked. 15 confirmed, with more joining. Every hour. Most are small vessels with limited weapons. The largest is his own ship, the Indomitable. Admiral Choi knew those ships and their crews. They were brave people, but not enough to fight a full Ravager fleet. The Skarn were known for their powerful weapons and aggressive tactics. They had destroyed 3 alien civilizations in the past year without losing a single ship. Send a message to all human fleets, she ordered. Emergency deployment to the Kepler system. All available ships to respond immediately. Her staff officer looked concerned. Admiral, that will leave our own systems with minimal defense. Earth Command has not authorized such a large deployment. Then I will take responsibility, Admiral Choi replied. The Vellani are dying while we follow procedures. Send the order. Across human space, the response was immediate. Captain Dongwoo Nam received the call while his assault carriers were conducting training exercises near Proxima Centauri. He had 4 heavy ships loaded with Marines and fighter craft. Without hesitation, he ordered his fleet toward the Kepler system. His ships were designed to land troops on hostile worlds. Each carrier held 300 Marines trained for the worst combat situations. These were soldiers from Earth where everything tried to kill humans from birth. They had learned to fight on a world where storms could level cities and animals hunted in packs. Engineer So Young-yoon was testing new fusion drives on the experimental dreadnought Terra's Wrath when the alert came through. Her ship was the most powerful vessel in the human fleet, with weapons that could crack asteroids. She had been looking for a chance to test the ship in real combat conditions. How long to reach the target system? She asked her navigation officer. 14 hours at maximum drive output, came the reply. Then we push the drives past maximum, So Young said. The Vellani do not have 14 hours. Even civilian captains joined the response. Jinwoo Bei commanded a cargo hauler that normally carried supplies between colonies. His ship had no weapons and minimal shields, but he volunteered anyway. His crew spent the journey welding metal plates to their hull and mounting mining lasers as makeshift guns. Dr. Yoon-mi Song prepared her medical frigate Mercy for the worst casualties she had ever seen. Her ship was designed to treat wounded from multiple species using advanced Vellani medical technology. The irony was not lost on her that she would be using Vellani medicine to save the Vellani themselves. Throughout human space, similar scenes played out. Miners abandoned their operations and joined the fleet. Transport ships dumped cargo to make room for additional weapons. Research vessels loaded with scientists suddenly found themselves heading toward a war zone. The response puzzled alien observers who monitored human communications. Other species in the galaxy would have formed committees and held meetings. They would have sent diplomatic messages and tried to negotiate with the attackers. The idea of rushing into battle to save strangers from another species seemed insane to them. But humans had learned different lessons on their dangerous homeworld. Earth had taught them that when predators attacked the innocent, you fought back immediately. You did not wait for permission or worry about the odds. You gathered your pack, and you hunted the hunters. Admiral Choi watched the fleet reports with growing amazement. In 6 hours, she had assembled 37 warships, 15 assault carriers, and dozens of support vessels. It was the largest human fleet ever gathered outside their own solar system. Ships that had never worked together were now flying in formation toward a common goal. Captain Taeho Park commanded one of the assault carriers and sent regular updates to Luna Station. Admiral, the fleet morale is unlike anything I have seen. The crews know we are outnumbered, but nobody cares. Everyone wants to reach the Vellani in time. What about supplies and coordination? Admiral Choi asked. These ships have never operated together before. The crews are sharing everything, Admiral. The mining ships are giving us raw materials for ammunition. The cargo haulers are distributing food and spare parts. It is like watching one large crew spread across 50 ships. This cooperation impressed even experienced officers. Human fleets usually took weeks to organize and coordinate. Now ships from different commands were working together as if they had trained for years. The shared purpose of saving innocent lives had united them in ways that military doctrine never could. On the bridge of his carrier, Dongwoo watched his fighter pilots prepare for battle. These men and women had trained to fight human enemies in familiar solar systems. Now they would face alien technology in unknown space. Yet none of them seemed worried about the challenge ahead. Sir, the pilots are asking about rules of engagement, his flight commander reported. Tell them the rules are simple, Dongwoo replied. Protect the innocent and destroy anyone who threatens them. The Vellani are under our protection now. As the human fleet approached the Kepler system, they received more distress calls from SciFiPrime. The Skarn bombardment continued without pause. Vellani cities were burning and refugee ships tried desperately to escape the planet. Some made it to space only to be destroyed by Ravager fighters patrolling the system. Dr. Song listened to the medical reports from the planet's surface. Vellani hospitals were overwhelmed with casualties. Their peaceful society had no experience treating battle wounds. Children were dying from injuries that human military doctors could easily repair. How many casualties are we expecting? Her, chief medical officer, asked. Prepare for thousands, Dr. Song replied. The entire Vellani population is at risk. We may be their only hope for survival. So Young pushed the Terra's Wrath harder than any ship had ever been pushed. The fusion drives glowed white-hot and the hull groaned under the stress. Her engineering crew worked around the clock to keep the systems from failing. Warning lights flashed throughout the ship, but nobody suggested slowing down. Engineer, the drives are at 130% capacity, her chief technician reported. We are beyond all safety margins. The Vellani children do not care about our safety margins, So Young replied. Keep pushing until something breaks. Admiral Choi coordinated the fleet movement from Luna Station. She had never commanded such a large force over such distances. Communication delays meant that ship captains had to make their own decisions about tactics and timing, yet somehow the fleet remained organized and focused. Admiral, we are receiving reports from other species, her communications officer said. The Galactic Council wants to know why humans are mobilizing for war. Tell them we are mobilizing for peace. Admiral Choi replied. We go to stop a massacre, not to start a conquest. As the fleet neared its destination, the crews prepared for battle. Weapons were charged and shields were activated. Marines checked their equipment and pilots climbed into their fighters. Everyone knew that the next few hours would determine whether the Vellani survived as a species. But the humans were not afraid. They came from a world where survival meant fighting impossible odds. They had faced extinction events and natural disasters that would destroy other civilizations. Now they would show the galaxy what happened when Earth's children decided to protect the innocent. The Skarn Ravagers were about to learn why humans were called the Deathworlders. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Thessera system, and what they saw made even veteran warriors pause in shock. 6 massive Skarn dreadnoughts hung in orbit around the beautiful blue and green world like dark metal, vultures. Each alien ship was twice the size of the largest human vessel and bristled with weapons that glowed with deadly energy. Commander Woojin An piloted the stealth ship Shadowrunner ahead of the main fleet to gather intelligence. His small vessel used advanced cloaking technology to move unseen through the outer system. What his sensors revealed made his blood run cold. The SciFiPrime was dying. Massive craters scarred the planet's surface where Skarn weapons had struck. Population centers. Smoke and fire covered entire continents. The beautiful crystal cities that the Vellani had built over thousands of years were being systematically destroyed. This is Shadowrunner to Fleet Command, Woojin transmitted on a secure channel. The enemy has 6 dreadnoughts in close orbit, conducting orbital bombardment. Smaller raider craft are hunting refugee ships trying to escape. I count approximately 40 fighter-sized vessels and dozens of transport ships. Admiral Heejin Choi received the report aboard her command ship Excellence, which had arrived with the main battle group. The tactical situation was worse than anyone had imagined. The human fleet had 37 warships against 6 dreadnoughts plus their escort fighters. By every military calculation, they were outnumbered and outgunned. What about Vellani defensive capabilities? She asked. Minimal, Admiral. They have civilian shields around their major cities, but no weapons. Some orbital stations are still active, but they appear to be hospitals and communication centers, not military bases. Captain Min-Ho Lee brought his exploration ship Horizons, edge closer to study the enemy vessels. His sensors revealed technology unlike anything in human databases. The Skarn ships used some kind of plasma-based energy weapons that could burn through planetary crust. Their hulls appeared to be made of an unknown metal alloy. Fleet Command. This is Horizon's Edge, Min-Ho reported. The enemy ships are using rotating bombardment patterns. They are not trying to conquer the planet, they are trying to kill everything on it. On the surface of the SciFiPrime elder physician Veshtai, huddled in an underground shelter with hundreds of other Volani survivors. His people were herbivores who had evolved from gentle herd animals. They had no concept of warfare or violence. Even their language lacked words for murder or genocide. "Elder, the human ships have arrived," his communications technician reported. "They are requesting permission to engage the attackers." Veshtai felt a mixture of hope and confusion. He had heard stories about humans but never met any. The galactic community said they were strange creatures from a dangerous world. Some species feared them while others found them fascinating. But they were the only ones who had answered the Volani call for help. "Tell them they have our blessing," he replied. "Ask them to save our children." Admiral Choi positioned her fleet in the shadow of Thesara's larger moon to avoid immediate detection. She needed time to study the enemy and plan her attack. The Skarn ships were powerful, but they seemed focused entirely on the planet below. Their formation was designed for bombardment, not fleet combat. Captain Dongwoo Nam prepared his assault carriers for battle. His Marines were ready to board enemy ships if necessary. These soldiers had trained for combat in spacesuits in zero gravity. They carried weapons designed to work in the vacuum of space and the confined corridors of alien vessels. "Admiral, request permission to launch fighters," Dongwoo transmitted. "My pilots are ready to engage." "Negative, Captain. We announce our presence first. These Skarn need to know who they are facing." Admiral Choi opened communication channels on all frequencies, both to the Skarn fleet and any surviving Volani on the planet. Her message would be recorded and transmitted throughout known space. History would remember what humanity said before the battle began. "This is Admiral Hyejin Choi of the Human Defense Fleet," she broadcast. "To the Skarn forces attacking SciFiPrime, you will cease your bombardment immediately and withdraw from this system. The Volani people are under human protection. To the Volani survivors, help has arrived. We will not abandon you." The response from the Skarn came quickly. Warlord Kreshtar commanded the Ravager fleet from his flagship Bone Crusher. He had conquered 17 worlds and destroyed 4 alien civilizations. The idea that these unknown mammals would dare threaten him was almost amusing. Soft creatures from nowhere dare to challenge the Skarn Ravager fleet. His message translated roughly. "You will watch as we finish cleansing this world, then you will die with them. Your ships are small and weak. Turn away or be destroyed." Timon. Ko served as the fleet's xenolinguist aboard Admiral Choi's flagship. He had studied dozens of alien languages and cultures during his career. As he analyzed the Skarn communications, he noticed something important that the automatic translators missed. "Admiral, the Skarn language has no words for concepts like mercy or protection," he reported. "They literally cannot understand why we are here. In their culture, only the strong survive and the weak deserve death." "Then we will teach them a new concept," Admiral Choi replied grimly. The Skarn fleet began to turn away from the planet to face this new threat. Their massive ships moved slowly, but their weapons were already charging. Energy readings spiked as plasma cannons prepared to fire. The aliens expected this to be a brief battle against inferior opponents. Engineer So Young-yoon pushed the Terra's Wrath forward from the human formation. Her experimental dreadnought was the most powerful ship in the fleet, but still smaller than any Skarn vessel. Her fusion drives blazed like miniature stars as she accelerated toward the enemy. "All ships, this is Terra's Wrath," she transmitted. "Beginning attack run on the lead enemy vessel. Follow my lead and concentrate fire." Warlord Kreshatar watched the human ship approach on his tactical display. The small vessel appeared to be attempting a suicide run against his flagship. He almost admired the courage even as he prepared to vaporize it with his main weapons. But the humans had not traveled across the galaxy to die uselessly. Captain Minho's Horizon's Edge darted between the Skarn ships using its superior speed and maneuverability. His job was not to fight but to map the enemy formation and identify weak points. "All ships, this is Horizon's Edge," he reported. "The enemy vessels have overlapping shield generators. If we can disable the generators on the lead ship, the others will be vulnerable." Dr. Yunmi Song positioned her medical frigate Mercy at the edge of the battle zone. Her ship was not designed for combat, but she could monitor Volani communications and coordinate rescue efforts. As she listened to transmissions from the planet below, she heard something that made her heart race. Volani children were singing in their underground shelters. Despite the death falling from the sky above them, they sang songs of hope and friendship. Their parents told them that help was coming from the strange humans who lived on the dangerous world called Earth. "Admiral, the Volani children are singing about us," Dr. Song reported with tears in her eyes. "They believe we can save them." Admiral Choi felt the weight of that trust settle on her shoulders. 50 million Volani depended on her decisions in the next few hours. These gentle people who had never hurt anyone faced extinction at the hands of monsters. Only humanity stood between them and death. "All ships prepare for full engagement," she ordered. "We did not come this far to watch innocents die. Show these ravagers what happens when they threaten those under human protection." The Skarn opened fire first, sending streams of superheated plasma across space toward the human fleet. The energy beams were powerful enough to melt asteroids, but the human ships scattered in all directions, using evasive maneuvers that confused the alien gunners. Captain Jinwoo Bei's cargo hauler Lucky Star should have been destroyed in the first exchange. His converted merchant ship had minimal armor and improvised weapons, but Jinwoo had learned to fly in the asteroid belts where a single mistake meant death. He danced his lumbering vessel between energy beams that would have killed any other pilot. "This is Lucky Star to all ships," he called out. "These aliens shoot straight, but they shoot slow. Use your speed against them." The human fleet spread out in a formation that the Skarn had never seen before. Instead of meeting force with force, the humans used mobility and unpredictability. They attacked from multiple angles and never stayed in one place long enough for the heavy weapons to lock on. Warlord Kreshitar grew frustrated as his powerful guns failed to destroy the quick human ships. His vessels were designed to fight other, heavily armed opponents in straight-up battles. These mammals fought like the small predators they resembled, darting in to attack, then vanishing before his weapons could respond. "Fighters, launch and destroy these pests," he ordered his subordinates. Skarn fighter craft poured from the dreadnoughts like angry insects. They were larger and more heavily armed than human fighters, but they still followed predictable attack patterns. Captain Dongwoo's pilots met them in space above the SciFiPrime and showed them how Earth's children had learned to hunt. The battle for the SciFiPrime had begun, and the galaxy would remember what happened next. The space battle above the SciFiPrime erupted into chaos as human and Skarn forces clashed for the first time. Captain Min-Ho Lee pushed his exploration ship Horizon's Edge directly at the lead enemy dreadnought in what appeared to be a suicide run. The Skarn gunners focused their massive plasma cannons on his small vessel, expecting an easy kill. Instead, they witnessed something that would be studied in military academies for generations. Min-Ho used the Sara's dense asteroid field like a three-dimensional maze weaving between floating rocks at impossible speeds. His navigation computer screamed warnings as he threaded paths that no sane pilot would attempt. "This is Horizon's Edge to all ships," he transmitted while dodging energy beams. "The enemy formation has a gap in their defensive grid. Follow my course markers, and we can hit them from their blind spot." Lieutenant Commander Jae-Hun Park led his fighter squadron through the asteroid field, following the path that Min-Ho had blazed. His pilots were volunteers from mining colonies and research stations. They had learned to fly in dangerous environments where a moment of inattention meant death in the cold vacuum of space. The Skarn fighters that pursued them were larger and better armed, but they could not match the humans for sheer reckless skill. Jae-Hun's squadron split into pairs and used the asteroids as cover. They attacked from unexpected angles, then vanished behind chunks of rock before the aliens could return fire. "Gold leader to all fighters," Jae-Hun called. "These Skarn pilots fight like they are flying cargo haulers. They have no imagination. Use that against them." On the surface of the SciFiPrime, elder physician Veshitai watched the battle through his shelter's communication systems. He had never seen combat before and could barely understand what he was witnessing. The humans moved their ships in patterns that seemed impossible. They fought with a coordination that suggested they had trained together for years. "How do they fly like that?" he asked his technician in wonder. "I do not know, Elder. Our computer says their maneuvers should be impossible. The stress forces alone should kill their crews." What the Villani did not understand was that humans had evolved on a world where everything tried to kill them. Earth's gravity was stronger than most planets. Its weather systems were violent and unpredictable. Its wildlife included predators that could hunt in packs and adapt to any environment. Human pilots learned to fly by surviving conditions that would ground aircraft on other worlds. They trained in storms that could tear apart space stations. Their bodies could handle acceleration forces that would knock most aliens unconscious. What seemed impossible to the Villani was just another day's work to someone from Earth. Captain Dongwu Nam launched his assault carriers into the heart of the battle. His marine boarding parties were ready for the most dangerous mission in space: combat. They would breach the hull of an enemy dreadnought and fight the crew hand-to-hand in the corridors of an alien ship. Sergeant Major Kyung-ho Im led the first boarding team toward the Skarn flagship Bonecrusher. His Marines wore powered armor and carried weapons designed for close-quarters combat in space. They had trained for this mission by fighting in simulated alien environments, where every surface might be a trap. "Marines, remember your training," Kyung-ho told his team. "These aliens are bigger and stronger than humans, but they have never fought anyone like us. We are predators from a death world. Show them what that means." The boarding pods launched from Dongwu's carrier and streaked toward the enemy dreadnought. Skarn point defense guns tried to shoot them down, but the small craft were too fast and too many. They struck the alien hull and began cutting through the armor with plasma torches. Engineer So Young-yoon pushed the Terra's Wrath beyond every safety limit as she engaged the largest Skarn dreadnought. Her experimental ship was humanity's most advanced warship, but it was still outgunned by the alien vessel. She compensated by being more aggressive than any sane commander would dare. "All sections, this is the bridge," she announced to her crew. "We are going to ram that dreadnought at full speed. Damage control teams prepare for hull breaches. Engineering, give me everything the fusion drives can produce." Her crew looked at their captain with a mixture of fear and admiration. So Young was asking them to fly their ship directly into the enemy's main guns. It was either brilliant or completely insane, possibly both. But the Terra's Wrath did not ram the Skarn ship. At the last moment, So Young rolled her vessel and fired every weapon she had into the aliens' weapon ports. The concentrated barrage disabled half the dreadnought's guns and sent debris flying in all directions. "This is Terra's Wrath to all ships," So Young called. "Their armor is thick, but their weapon systems are vulnerable. Target their gun ports, not their hulls." The human fleet adapted instantly to this new information. Ships that had been trying to punch through heavy armor now focused on the more delicate weapons and sensor arrays. The Skarn found their mighty dreadnought slowly being stripped of their ability to fight back. Warlord Kreshitar could not believe what was happening. His fleet had conquered dozens of worlds without losing a single ship. Now these strange mammals were dismantling his vessels. With surgical precision, they fought with a combination of reckless courage and tactical brilliance that he had never encountered. "All ships concentrate fire on their largest vessel," he ordered. "Destroy their flagship and the rest will flee." But Admiral Choi's ship, excellence, was not where the Skarn expected it to be. She had learned from studying the enemy communications that they thought in terms of rigid hierarchies. They assumed that killing the leader would scatter the human fleet. They were wrong. Human tactics emphasized independent action and shared command. Every captain in the fleet was trained to make decisions without waiting for orders. Every crew member understood the mission and could adapt when plans changed. The battle reached its turning point when the Skarn made their greatest mistake. A group of raider craft broke away from the main battle to attack Dr. Song's medical frigate Mercy. The ship was clearly marked with medical symbols and had been treating wounded Villani refugees throughout the battle. The attack on the hospital ship triggered something primal in the human fleet. Every species in the galaxy had rules about protecting medical vessels and non-combatants. The Skarn had just violated the most basic laws of civilized warfare. "All ships, this is Admiral Choi." Her voice carried a cold fury that made even her own crew shiver. "They have fired on a medical vessel treating wounded civilians. These are not soldiers we are fighting. These are monsters. Show them no mercy." The human response was immediate and absolute. Every weapon in the fleet turned on the raiders who had attacked the Mercy. The small craft were vaporized in seconds, but that was only the beginning. The human ships began to coordinate their attacks with a precision that seemed almost supernatural. Captain Jin Woo Bei's converted cargo hauler Lucky Star suddenly found itself in perfect position to attack a damaged dreadnought. His improvised weapon should not have been able to penetrate the alien armor, but he aimed for the holes that other ships had already created. "This is Lucky Star," he called out cheerfully, delivering a special cargo to the Skarn courtesy of Earth's merchant marine. His makeshift missiles struck the dreadnought's reactor section and triggered a chain reaction that split the massive ship in half. Debris rained down on SciFiPrime's upper atmosphere and burned up like falling stars. Sergeant Major Kyung-ho's Marines had fought their way deep into the Skarn flagship. The aliens were indeed larger and stronger than humans, but they had never faced opponents who fought with such coordinated ferocity. The humans moved through the ship's corridors like a pack of wolves hunting in familiar territory. "Sergeant Major, we have reached the bridge level," one of his Marines reported. "The aliens are falling back to their command center." "Then we go in and finish this," Kyung-ho replied. "Remember, these creatures were bombing children when we arrived. They chose this fight." The final assault on the Skarn command bridge was brief and decisive. The alien warriors fought bravely, but they were not prepared for humans who had learned warfare on a world where survival meant constant vigilance. Kyung-ho's team disabled the flagship's weapons and engines within minutes. As the largest Skarn dreadnought went dark, the rest of their fleet began to retreat. Warlord Kreshtar transmitted a final message before his ships jumped to hyperspace. "This is not over, soft creatures. The Skarn Ravager fleet will remember this insult. We will return with more ships and finish what we started." Admiral Choi watched the alien ships disappear into hyperspace. Her fleet had won the battle, but she knew the war was far from over. The Skarn would indeed return, and next time they would be prepared for human tactics. But for now, the SciFiPrime was safe. The bombardment had stopped, and rescue ships were already heading for the planet's surface. Dr. Song's medical teams prepared to treat thousands of wounded Villani civilians. The children in the underground shelters could finally stop singing songs of hope and start singing songs of victory. The galaxy had just witnessed something that would change everything. A small human fleet had defeated a superior enemy force through courage, skill, and an absolute refusal to abandon innocent people in need. The age of the Skarn Ravagers was coming to an end. 3 months after the Battle of Thessera, Prime Ambassador Yu Jin Han stood before the assembled representatives of the Galactic Council on the neutral world of Concordia. The vast chamber held delegates from over 200 species. Most had never seen a human before, and they watched her with mixtures of curiosity and unease. Yu Jin activated the holographic display at the center of the chamber. Images from the battle filled the air above the delegates. They watched human ships dancing through asteroid fields while dodging plasma fire. They saw Captain Minho's impossible flying and Sergeant Major Kyung-ho's Marines boarding an enemy dreadnought. But Yu Jin did not show them the tactical displays or weapon statistics. Instead, she showed them the moments that defined humanity. The footage began with Dr. Song treating wounded Villani children while explosions shook her medical ship. The alien delegates watched in silence as human doctors worked to save lives while their own ship was under fire. "Honored delegates," Yu Jin began, "you have asked why humanity responded to the Villani distress call. You want to know why we risked our ships and crews for a species that is not our ally. The answer is simple. We responded because it was right." The Zephyrian delegate raised a tentacle in objection. "Ambassador Han, your species violated several treaties by entering that system without permission. You engaged in combat without authorization from this council. And while this council debated permissions and authorizations, 50 million innocent people would have died," Yu Jin replied calmly. "We chose to save lives rather than follow procedures." She changed the holographic display to show footage from inside a Villani shelter. Elder physician Veshitai appeared speaking to his people as bombs fell around them. His words were translated for the assembly. The elder told his children that help was coming from the humans who live on the dangerous world, Yu Jin translated. He had never met a human, but he trusted us to come. That trust was not misplaced. The Corvani delegate spoke up from across the chamber. His species was known for their careful diplomatic approach to all conflicts. Ambassador, we understand your motives, but your actions have destabilized the entire sector. The Skarn Ravagers are now seeking revenge against all species that supported human intervention. Yujin nodded acknowledgement of his concern. Then perhaps it is time for all species to stand together against those who would prey on the innocent. The Skarn succeeded for years because everyone was too afraid to fight them. What the delegates did not know was that the Skarn threat was already diminishing. Captain Boram Seo of the exploration vessel. New Dawn had detected something remarkable during her patrol of the Outer Rim systems. Other species were beginning to copy humanity's response patterns. 2 weeks earlier, the peaceful Ithari had faced pirate raids on their mining colonies. In the past, they would have simply paid tribute and hoped the attacks would stop. This time, they sent distress calls across known space asking for help. The response surprised everyone, including the Ithari themselves. Human ships arrived first as expected, but they were followed by vessels from 6 other species. The Altarian Defense Fleet sent 3 cruisers. Even the normally isolationist Zerani contributed 2 destroyers to the rescue force. The pirates found themselves facing a coalition fleet that outnumbered them 3-1. They retreated without firing a shot. More importantly, they spread word throughout the criminal networks that attacking peaceful worlds now brought swift retaliation from multiple species. The Battle of SciFiPrime was not just a military victory, Yujin continued her address to the Council. It was proof that the galaxy's innocent people do not have to face threats alone. Humanity showed that the strong have a duty to protect the weak. She changed the display again to show the current situation in the Thessara system. Volani cities were being rebuilt with help from human construction teams. Hospitals that had been destroyed in the bombing were being replaced with newer facilities designed by both species working together. Dr. Song had established a joint medical research station in orbit around SciFiPrime. Human and Volani doctors were combining their knowledge to create treatments that neither species could have developed alone. The herbivorous Volani understood plant-based medicines, while the omnivorous humans brought knowledge of treating trauma and combat injuries. The research was already producing results. New treatments for radiation poisoning had been developed after studying how Volani bodies process toxins. Human surgical techniques combined with Volani regeneration therapy were healing wounds that previously would have been fatal. Elder physician Veshtai himself had traveled to Earth to study human medical training. He was amazed to discover that human doctors learned their skills by treating injuries from their dangerous homeworld. Broken bones, poisonous bites, and severe trauma were routine cases for physicians from Earth. Your people learn healing by facing death constantly, he had told Dr. Song during his visit. On Thessara, we studied medicine in peaceful laboratories. You studied it in emergency rooms while patients were dying. That is why you could save our children when we could not. Admiral Choi had been promoted to command the new Galactic Defense Initiative. The organization grew from the coalition that had saved SciFiPrime. 30 species had now contributed ships and personnel to the joint fleet that patrolled the Outer Rim systems. The human approach to fleet coordination had revolutionized galactic military thinking. Instead of the rigid command structures that most species use, the Defense Initiative emphasized flexible tactics and independent decision-making. Each ship captain was trained to assess situations and act without waiting for orders from distant headquarters. This new doctrine proved its worth when the Skarn Ravagers attempted their promised revenge. Warlord Kreshtar returned to human space with twice as many ships as before. He expected to find the same small patrol fleet that had defeated him at SciFiPrime. Instead, he found Admiral Choi waiting with 40 ships from 15 different species. The coalition had been tracking Skarn movements and was ready for their return. The second battle was even more one-sided than the first. Captain Dongwu's Marines had trained soldiers from allied species in human boarding techniques. When they assaulted the Skarn flagship this time, they were accompanied by Altarian shock troops and Zerani combat engineers. The mixed boarding party overwhelmed the alien crew in minutes. The psychological impact of the defeat was devastating. To Skarn morale, their warrior culture could not accept being beaten twice by the same enemies. Several Ravager fleets broke away from Kreshtar's command and fled to distant sectors. The remaining ships were no longer a threat to civilized worlds. The Galactic Defense Initiative now includes 43 species, Eugene announced to the Council Assembly. We have prevented 17 attacks on peaceful worlds and rescued hundreds of thousands of civilians from pirates and raiders. The Centauri delegate had remained silent throughout the presentation, but now he stood to address the chamber. His species had been among humanity's earliest contacts and had watched their development with interest. The humans have taught us something important, he said. We always believed that survival required avoiding conflict. We thought that hiding and negotiating would keep us safe. The humans showed us that sometimes survival requires fighting for others. Eugene smiled at the acknowledgement. The Defense Initiative is not about human leadership. It is about all species working together to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Every member contributes according to their abilities. The Kurvani delegate who had earlier criticized human actions now spoke in a different tone. Ambassador Han, my government has authorized me to request membership in the Galactic Defense Initiative. The Kurvani 4th Fleet will place itself under Admiral Choi's command. Similar requests came from delegations throughout the chamber. Species that had never cooperated in military matters were now eager to join the coalition. The idea of standing together against predators had spread throughout civilized space. But the real measure of humanity's impact came from an unexpected source. Lieutenant Daehyun Shin monitored communications networks from his station aboard, the patrol ship Vigilant. His job was to track threats and coordinate responses, but recently he had noticed something that amazed him. Species across the galaxy were changing how they responded to crisis situations. The careful bureaucratic procedures that had once dominated galactic politics were giving way to direct action. When innocent people called for help, the response was now measured in hours, not months. The Thesari had developed their own rapid response protocols based on human examples. The Meridian Republic created volunteer rescue fleets that could deploy within days of receiving distress calls. Even the ultra-conservative hegemony began training their military for humanitarian missions. Captain, Boram received a new distress call while patrolling the far rim territories. A species called the Yanari had been enslaved by raiders and were begging for rescue. The message reached her ship through the new emergency communication network that connected all Defense Initiative members. This is new dawn to all ships, Boram transmitted. We have a code-red humanitarian crisis in the Vega sector. Civilian population under attack by slave traders. All available ships, please respond.